Hi guys, welcome back to the Library of Alexandria. Today guys, I am going to be doing a winter book howl in order that I can not get behind, or you can just use the word lest. In order that not is the negative, that is just lest. So, a winter book howl, lest I get behind, just like last time. So, as you'll recall, the book haul was so long the last time that I made it to the end of the universe where the heat death of the sun had occurred and I was all alone. But then a black hole sucked me through and threw me back in time like 6 weeks so that I could do wrap-ups on time. And it was, I can't believe it. Like, don't get mad at me. Like, I didn't make this up. It's all real stuff that happened. But what I discovered that upon coming back, I had the ability to gift others with the ability to hop through time, but only if they were using that hop through time to commit petty crime. And so, with this coalition of time bandits, but no, that's a terrible movie with friggin' Sean Connery, time petty larcenists, I have gathered a wonderful group of small-time crooks around me who hop in and out through time and bring me books, stealing from people who will never know because it is in time. So when you hear me say so-and-so gifted this book to me, what I really mean is that they jumped through time and stole it from someone and brought it to me. So all of these books are ill-gotten gains as I sit like a dragon atop mine hoard. So just letting you know that that is what's happening. So without wasting any more time, let's get down to business. Let's go ahead and get started on the book howl. Now, many of these are from friends or patrons, or some people who are friends and patrons, but a bunch of them I just bought myself whenever the last book howl was, which I think was like in friggin' October. So just books that I've acquired since then. So let's go ahead and get this started. First on the list we have Boosh. How to Rule an Empire and Get Away with It, right? Yeah, How to Rule an Empire and Get Away with It. So this is book 2. This is by K.J. Parker, and this is book 2 of the Siege trilogy. Book 3 of which, How to Conquer the World, Conqueror's Guide to Ruling the World, something like that. This was gifted to me by my wonderful British friend Abby, whom I love, even if she does not actually know British sayings. This is probably Parker's most accessible work, from what I understand. More people have read The Siege than 16 Ways to Defend a Walled City than any other Parker book. And that is evidenced by the fact that this is the only series that has an audiobook of Parker's books, which is really disappointing. Hey, KJ Parker, if you're listening, I will happily audiobook all of your collected works. They're so freaking good. So it's, I think, the most accessible entry point into Parker's works. Parker is not for everybody, and they're not all super accessible. Folding Knife isn't necessarily, and definitely not The Hammer, and certainly not Sharps, which is for Parker pros only. But I am definitely going to be reading, I have no problem reading Parker. I'm reading like one a month at this point, because he's got a bunch of novellas, which allows me to do that. So I'll be reading this soon. I love Parker. He's one of my new favorite authors. Thank you so much, Abby. Next we have Boosh, Two of Swords, book 2 by K.J. Parker. So the Two of Swords series is about a war, and it's told from like warriors, politicians, generals, bankers. It's told from a whole bunch of people's perspective. And the Two of Swords books were originally 22 serials. So they were little small snippets that came out, I think, monthly. And then at the end, they compiled them into 3 separate books. So I already have book 1. This is book 2. I'm really, really excited to read this series. It's military fantasy, and Parker is, again, my favorite. But fun fact, Two of Swords, book 3, is actually, as of now, the only one of K.J. Parker's bibliography that I do not own in hard copy. After many months of, scouring the used book sites and eBay, to find like the out-of-print ones, because a lot of his novellas and his novella collections and stuff are out of print because they were just through Subterranean Press, and so it's hard to get all of them, at least if you aren't super wealthy. So Two of Swords book 3 is the only one that I do not own, and that's fine. Like Orbit, it's still in print, and Orbit publishes it, so it's sitting there to buy for like $12 whenever I feel like it. But I have all of his books now, which excites me. This was gifted to me by my wonderful friend and patron, Sharon. Thank you so much, Sharon, for stealing this for me. Next up, Boosh, The Rise of the Ranger by Philip C. Quantrell. Quaintrell? I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. This is book 1 in the Echoes saga. And this was gifted to me by my wonderful, wonderful friend and benefactor to whom I owe very, very much, Jessie May. Thank you so much, Jessie. This is the first in a 9-book series, and I looked, and all 9 are out. Like, I think the last one came out last year. This man released 2 books a year for 5 years, and came out 9 books. And that's insane. And when I looked them up, they all have really good ratings, and I know that people who like the series are more likely to rank them highly, but book 9 has like the highest rating I've ever seen on Goodreads, and it has more than 4 ratings by his friends. It's got like in the hundreds, and it has like a 4.89. It's insane, the rating on this, and they're all ranked really high. And for this being a self-published work, for all of them to be ranked that highly, and have, more than a handful of reviews, that's actually pretty impressive. I don't really know what all this is about. I think it's about there's 6 kingdoms of mankind, and the elves are uprising, and after 1,000 years of oppression, they're uprising and going to take over all of them because they're superior, I suppose. But I don't know anything about this series, so if you've read this, please tell me if it's any good. I know Petrick, I think, just finished this or is going to start it. I don't know, but Petrick mentioned these recently. So please let me know. One question for those of you who are familiar with self-published and traditionally published, and hopefully there's some self-published authors out there, is there a reason, why do self-published books have the covers are much harder? In that if you held a traditionally published book and a self-published book in your hands, you could tell which one was self-published by the way it feels. Why is that? Is it a special kind of do traditional publishers have access to a proprietary binding that feels different than this? I don't know. But if you know, please let me know. So thank you so much, Jesse. I'm hoping to start this. I don't know. It just looks really cool. Up next, we have Boosh, Shards of Honor by Lois McMaster Bujold. So this is the first book in the first book, I think, published, not chronologically, but published order, of the Vorkosigan saga, which is a sci-fi saga that follows, I think it follows 2 families or 2 main characters, and they are each they just go back and forth on who is the main character of which book. And I've had several people tell me the Vorkosigan saga is really, really good. And first of all, this book is only 222 pages, which more short books, more short books, more short books. 2022 is going to be the year of the short book. So, if you have read this, please jump in, pile on that opinion and say, tell me that these books are really good and that I should read them. I actually think this book is on, this series is on my series to start in 2022 video. I haven't filmed it yet, but I have it written down. I don't know. If it's not, it will be, and I'll replace something else. Because I definitely want to start this series, because it's short, and I've heard they're really, really good. As far as what this is about, I don't really know. But this one is one of the ones that stars Cordelia. I think there's 2 characters. There's another one. There's a guy who's a character in the other one. Anyway, it was the wrong war in the wrong place at the wrong time for the wrong reasons. She even wore the wrong uniform. Cordelia Naismith, Baton Expeditionary Force, had been hurried into battle still wearing her old tan astronomical survey fatigues. Now, captain of a throwaway ship on a mission of deception, she convoys a weapon of wicked subtlety to entrap and destroy an enemy armada. But Cordelia will soon discover deception within deception, treachery within treachery, though on the back of the book it's spelled threachery. How do you have a freaking misspelling on the back of this book? Until finally she's forced into a separate peace with her chief opponent, Lord Vorkosigan. It is a peace that earns her only ignominy, even though it foreshadows a new beginning for herself, her lover, and both their peoples. That sounds so freaking cool. I already have Curse of Chalion and Paladin of Souls by Bujold, but I haven't read those either. So please, let me know if this is good. And, if you're interested in reading this. This was also gifted to me, I don't know by whom. I am usually really good at keeping the little notes until I book haul them, but I think when these got moved, the notes fell out and somehow got thrown away. So thank you, whoever got this for me. Next is Boosh, Priest of Lies by Peter McLean. Now this is the first book on this haul given to me or stolen from me by my patron Stephanie B, who with this time-jumping ability must have broken into the manor of this old retired explorer who has hidden this treasure trove of books in a secret vault that's behind an oil painting of circus clowns storming the beach at Normandy. Because the haul that she brought back, she is gunning for petty larcenist of the century. And this is the first book that she gifted me on this on this Howl. And so this is book 2 of the Rose Throne books. And I know Petrick likes these. I'm fairly certain my buddy Mark has read these and likes these. These are grimdark books. This is one of my earliest TBR books from when I first started BookTube, and I still haven't read Priest of Bones yet. So I definitely want to. Again, short books, guys, short books. So thank you so much, Stephanie, and I hope I can get to this series pretty soon. I think the fourth and final book, comes out this year, so maybe that's a cue to start reading. Next we have Boosh, Ship of Smoke and Steel by Django Wexler, book 1 of the Wells of Sorcery trilogy. I think this is also stolen from me by Stephanie. So I am a huge fan of Django Wexler because of his Shadow Campaigns books, which is a 5-book series about the Napoleonic Wars, but with magic and demons. And it is so good. Has a fantastic female lead and a fantastic male lead, and actually 2 really good female leads and 2 really good male leads. Oh, they're so good. The last book is not my favorite. It does not end the way I thought it should, and I don't really care for the 5th book, but the series is so good that Django Wexler has earned my my loyalty, and I'll read whatever he's written. And so that was an adult series, but then his second series was a YA series, and that's what this is. This is the first book in his YA series. And since then, he's in the second book. He just wrote Blood of the Chosen, which is the second book of Burning Eye and Burning Blade and Silver Eye, which reads younger than Shadow Campaigns for sure. It's not YA, but it definitely is younger than Shadow Campaigns. So I don't love Ashes of the Sun. I have yet to read Blood of the Chosen, but I need to. But I really like a lot of stuff that Django Wexler does. It's just Ashes of the Sun had a specific character, the Danger Makes Me Horny trope, that I despise, which just plunged it down. Also, it's heavily based on Star Wars, which is not my favorite thing. So, this sounds really cool. I mean, just as called Ship of Smoke and Steel, she's got to go raid like a ghost ship or something. Sounds freaking cool. If you've read this, and the fact that it's YA doesn't really bother me. I read 4 YA books this year, and I liked 3 of them. So, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just some of the tropes that tend to appear in younger novels I don't like. Now, the main character runs the risk of being the Danger Makes Me Horny trope in this, just from some descriptions I've read, but I do hope that I get to read this pretty soon. Next we have Bouphe the Coward by Stephen Arion, who is the author of the Battle Mage trilogy, which I have not read. But I think there's 2 series of Battle Mage books. Anyway, this is the first book in I think a new duology. I think the next one is coming out this next year, I think. And this is about a 17-year-old who went with a group of heroes. He was, hired with a group of heroes to go banish this lich. And he came back alone because everyone else died. And he was hailed as a hero. But 10 years later, the lich is back. And it turns out, I think, that he ran. Everyone died and he ran and just let everyone think that he killed it. And now it's back, and he's got to go vanquish it, and he's like, oh, crap. So that sounds hilarious. Stephen Arion is such a super nice guy. I've talked to him in my Discord. I know he's active in some other Discords. He has a great channel himself where he talks about the writing process, which I super appreciate. So I hope that I can get to this pretty soon. Next, Boosh, Godblind by Anna Stevens. So this, every time I look at it, it reminds me of Blackwing. I'm like, is this the Blackwing? It's not. I think this is a darker series, book 1 of the Godblind trilogy. And I think my friend Angela has read this, and I know Mike over at Mike's Book Reviews just finished this. So if either one of y'all are watching this, tell me, is this series good? Because it sounds cool. I think it's about this group of people who was banished like 1,000 years ago or something because they worship the red gods. I think that's what they're called. Yeah, the bloodthirsty red gods. And now they have a new king, and they're going to raid the rest of the world that doesn't worship the red gods. And it sounds cool. I don't know what it's about, but I mean that's from glancing at the back. So if you have read this, let me know if this is good. I've never read anything by Anna Stevens. I don't know what her writing style is like. Yeah, I bought this on a whim because I saw a lot of people talking about it, and I thought the cover looked cool and the premise sounded cool. So, Godblind. Next, and I think these next ones are all like from the Horde that Stephanie brought back. Though I do need to say that The Coward was purchased for me by another one of my good friends, Stephanie, not Stephanie B. Stephanie from Stephanie's Bookverse. She bought me The Coward. Thank you so much, Stephanie. But I think these other ones are from Stephanie B's like smash and grab at the old Explorer's house. This is called Edge of the World by Kevin J. Anderson. And this is book 1 in the Terra Incognita series. I don't know if it's a trilogy or what, but I've never heard anybody talk about this series. I don't know if it's just bad. Like, I've heard someone talk about, like, the Bard's song, the Bard's Tale. The same guy wrote that. But this is a book about enemy nations who send ships to discover this, like, recently discovered but unexplored land. And I love books that take place primarily on ships. And I know that's unpopular. Around BookTube, everyone's like, yeah, I don't really like books that take place on ships, but I love Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb. That's what I hear in every freaking thing. Why y'all hate freaking ship books? Why do y'all hate books that take place on the water? I think it's awesome. This probably fits into the quest books that Angela and I, the quest for the best of Flintlock Fantasy and adjacent genres. If it's not on there, it should be, and I will add it. Angela, add this if you see this before I actually add it. But I think this is already on there. Anyway, this just looks really cool. I read a little snippet of it. It reads really quickly, and I think one of the main characters is a freaking ship captain, which is awesome. So if you've read this, if you've heard anything about this, please let me know. Dude, ships. Next we have Boosh, Endymion, and Rise of Endymion. Again, both gifted to me or stolen from me by Stephanie B. These are the last two books of the Hyperion Cantos. So I recently reread Hyperion this year with my friend Angela at Literature Science Alliance, and I really enjoyed it. And I had read Fall of Hyperion before, which is why I own it, but I'd never read the two Endymion books that come after it. Which is why I didn't have them. And so I'm hoping to finish Hyperion Cantos this year. I don't read a ton of sci-fi, so it's hard for me to slot in science fiction, but I definitely do want to finish the Hyperion Cantos. I have heard that the Endymion books are not as good as the Hyperion books, but I don't care. Like, I like, it doesn't really bother me. I'm happy to finish a series even if I don't like all of the books in said series. I'm a completionist. Like, this is why I platinumed Assassin's Creed Unity, which is the worst video game experience of my life. Just because I tend to complete things when I say that I'm going to complete them. So if I start a series, I'm probably going to finish it unless I like DNF'd the first one. If I DNF'd the first one or absolutely despise the first one, maybe not. But, you know, sometimes the individual books aren't great, but I'm definitely gonna finish that series hopefully this coming year. Next we have Boosh, Mistborn Era 2, Alloy of Law, Shadows of Self, and Bands of Mourning. I bought this one right after I finished Hero of Ages because I knew that I wanted to jump into Mistborn Era 2 soon, and Shadows of Self was a gift from my friend Angela, and Bands of Mourning was a gift from my friend and patron Katrina. So I finished Mistborn just recently, and the aesthetic of Era 2 is something that I know I'm gonna like it more than most people like it. A lot of people criticize it, but just because it's Flintlock, this is again another quest series. So we're definitely gonna be reading this. In addition, the fourth book comes out this year. And so I'm in an odd situation. This will kind of be the first time since I joined BookTube that I will be caught up with a really popular series before the really popular series' next release, which is not something I've done before. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm not certain that I want to do it. Like, I'm so accustomed to reading things that nobody else reads, and I'm not like in like the circle of hype, you know, where all the content is about this particular thing leading up to a thing, and there's so many people covering it that it's just, you know, a whisper lost in a sea of shouting. And so part of me doesn't really, you know, I just don't really want the hassle of worrying about, oh, am I gonna get it done? Like, is it done on launch day? Am I, like, part of me doesn't even want to worry about that. And so part of me doesn't even want to read them till after the fourth one's out and people have forgot about it. And, you know, I realize that part of that is my inner hipster that undid his restraints and is trying to go buy patchouli and like a freaking $13 specialty drink at Starbucks. But hopefully, you know, lock him back in the basement so that he doesn't come out and do that. But I'm super excited to read that series. Next, Boosh, The Desert Spear by Peter V. Brett. This is book 2 of the Demon Cycle, and this is also gifted to me by Stephanie. Thank you so much. So the Demon Cycle, just like Priest of Bones, was on my really early TBRs when I first started BookTube, when I didn't have any books or hadn't heard about a ton, or I had like looked up some obscure stuff that sounded really cool to me, and I just haven't gotten around to it. But any series that comes in a mass market paperback, which is my favorite way to read, I know that's unpopular, guys. I don't care. If you also are an MMPB warrior, let me know. Join us. We have, t-shirts. I love mass market paperback. I just read them faster. And I know people, what? No, I read them faster. Just deal with it. So I'm hoping to get to this series pretty soon. Next, Boosh, Retribution Falls. And this was stolen for me by my wonderful friend, Andrew Wizardly Reads. This is book one of the Tales of the Ketty J, which is a tale about an airship and an airship captain. Air pirates. Sky pirates. Yes! If y'all see Tailspin, Don Carnage. Don Carnage! Don Carnage! Was my favorite character, aside from, like corporate Shere Khan.
Really? Somehow I find that hard to believe.
From Tailspin. You know who I didn't like? Kit frickin' Cloudkicker. Your stupid little airfoil is dumb. So I love Sky Pirates. I love the steampunk aesthetic. I love airships. This is definitely a quest series. And I am definitely more excited to read this book, or this series, than I am to start the Emberblade. Mostly because the steampunk stuff just interests me more than like an archetypal, like epic fantasy. So hopefully I can read this pretty soon. Andrew, I'll let you know when I read it so we can read it together. Thank you so much. Next we have Boosh, The Garden of Stones by Mark T. Barnes. And this is book one of the Echoes of Empire trilogy. And I think this was also, I'm sorry, whoever got this to me, thank you so much. So this was one of my very first books that was on my Goodreads TBR. And I've never heard anybody talk about this book ever. I've heard so little about this, which is to say nothing, that I didn't even realize that the other two books had come out, because I've literally never heard this book even mentioned. And when I first read about this book, it sounded it had echoes of kind of like Long Price Quartet. And even the cover reminded me of Long Price Quartet. And there's a reason for that. When I looked on the back, Stephen Martiner, who is my favorite cover artist, who did the Long Price Quartet covers, the individual hardbacks. And so that automatically gives me an affinity for this book. If you've read this, or if you've heard anything about it, please let me know. It sounds so freaking cool. I don't even know how to describe it, so I'm just going to read this book for you. Fueled by visions promising him prolonged life and political power, the dying Korajidin, leader of a millennial-old dynasty, has brought the nation of Shiran to civil war. But is his bright destiny assured, or do the events unfolding around him promise a more ignoble and finite future? Indris, warrior mage of the Sex Scholars and scion of a rival great house, is caught in the upheaval. Driven by loyalty and conscience to return to a city that haunts his past, Indris reluctantly accepts the task of finding a missing man, the only one able to steer the teetering nation toward peace. The celebrated warrior poet Mari touches both men's lives, one as daughter, one as lover. As her world unravels around her, can she be true to both her duty to blood and her own desires for freedom and happiness? Doesn't that sound freaking cool? Like warrior poets? What? Are they summoning on Dot? Probably not, but still. I gotta try to read this year. This just looks freaking cool. I'm gonna adjust my series to start list and put this on here. Next we have Boosh, Queenslayer by Sebastian de Castel. This was also gifted to me. I lost the thing. I'm so sorry, but thank you so much. I can't really say much about this because it's book 5, and I've only read book 1 of Spellslinger, which is de Castel's YA series. And I am definitely going to finish that series this coming year, definitely. It reads so fast, and it was fun. I think it's grown on me more as I've gotten away from it. I think I didn't know what to expect going in, and I wanted greatcoats, and it's not greatcoats. And the main character is a bit of a schmuck who isn't good at anything, which is hilarious. But Queenslayer. So now I just need Crownbreaker, I think is book 6. So I'll definitely be reading this pretty soon. Also by Sebastian de Castel, Boosh, Tales of the Greatcoats. So during 2020, Sebastian de Castel wrote 9 short stories, or 10 short stories, but 9 of them are about the Greatcoats, or in that world, and then one is about the Battle of Agincourt. And he had released these 3 at a time, kind of on his website for on the cheap, but then this book came out that has all of them and plus 4 more, and it is well worth the price of admission. Guys, if you are a Greatcoats fan, this is a must-own. All of the stories, except one, take place after the events of Tyrant's Throne, so you definitely need to have read the Greatcoats in order to read these. And one story in there takes place before Trader's Blade, but one story also ties into Our Lady of Blades, the new book in the Great Coast universe that is coming out this year. So that was super exciting to see as well. These are, like, the best of these are absolutely fantastic. There's one that follows a different greatcoat that we see in one of the books, and it's my favorite of the lot. There's another greatcoat who's like the Fox Mulder of X-Files, of the greatcoats, where he investigates, like, supernatural goings on. His name's Estevar, and he's freaking cool. The King's Crucible. It's just, like, if you like greatcoats, there's no reason you should not have this or buy it now and read them. They're absolutely fantastic. Next we have Boosh, The Last Witness by K.J. Parker. So I got a bunch of Parker books on here. As I said, I have all of his bibliography now. This is one of his novellas, and I've recently discovered my love of novellas this year. Like, I really enjoy reading novellas because they're fast and I feel accomplished and stuff. So I was happy that that K.J. Parker has so many because, again, he's a favorite of mine. This one involves a guy who has the ability to rifle through your memories and remove specific memories. And in kind of the cutthroat political machination world that Parker writes about, you can imagine what kind of ne'er-do-wells would contract this guy out to do their dirty work. So I'm definitely pumped to read this. Also by K.J. Parker, we have Boosh, the Scavenger Trilogy, which is Shadow, what's this one? Pattern, and then Memory. And this is the only one of Parker's books that I've never heard mentioned, like, anywhere. Because I think it is the only one that doesn't take place kind of in the same universe as the other ones. And so I think it's just like has a different setting or tonally different. I don't know. But it sounds super cool. A man wakes in the wilderness amid scattered corpses and inquisitive crows. He has no memory of who he is or how he came to be there. The only clues to his former existence lie in his apparent skill with a sword and the fragmented dreams that permeate his sleep. The evidence of his past must lie somewhere, but masquerading as a god in the company of the mysterious Copus seems an unlikely place to start looking. And yet, as their journey leads north, answers begin to emerge. Each one points to a riddle far more complex than he could ever imagine, and a truth he may not wish to believe. What? Sounds so freaking cool. Again, I'm not super concerned about getting to these because I love Parker and I'm going to read everything he wrote, so I will definitely be getting to these at some point. Also by Parker, we have Boosh, Belly of the Bow and the Proof House, books 2 and 3 of the Fencer trilogy, which was his first trilogy. I've already talked about The Color of Steel? Yes. Which is the first book in that, and it's about fencers at law, like legal cases are decided by fencing, and apparently it's super depressing. But all Parker's books are really depressing. The Fencer trilogy is probably going to be the first of his series that I read. So I found them in a used bookstore or online in a used bookstore. And so I'm ready to go for when I start reading those. Next up we have Boosh, The Crown Tower, The Rose Thorn, The Death of Dulgath, and The Disappearance of Winter's Daughter by Michael J. Sullivan. These are the 4 books in the Rhaeria Chronicles, not Revelations, which I had mistakenly called the Theft of Swords books the Chronicles. They're not. They're Revelations. So I bought these because Michael J. Sullivan had announced that this last book was going out of print. These last 2, I guess. And I think these last 2 are like self-published. And these first 2 are published by Orbit. And you can tell the feel in the difference of them. These feel way different than these. It's bizarre. Like, the pages are stiffer. I don't really know why. Anyway, this is the prequel trilogy to Hadrian and Royce's adventures in Revelation. I'm just now finishing up The Crown Conspiracy, and I love it. I love it. It's so fun. And so I just got these before I had to friggin' look for one going out of print or whatever. So I've got these ready to go whenever I finish Revelations. Next is Boosh, Shadow Raiders, book 1 in the Dragon Brigade by Margaret Weiss and Robert Krams. So I love, like, Weiss and Hickman's work in the D&D universe doesn't really hold up, 20, 30 years later. But I'm hoping the Deathgate cycle does, because I really enjoy the Deathgate cycle, and I remember it reading much more adult than the Dragonlance Chronicles. But this is a different collaboration. I've never seen Wise write anything that wasn't in collaboration with Hickman. And this is definitely a quest series. It has the cover is not great. The cover literally looks like it was printed out with a bad quality printer. It's not a great cover. But it's definitely a quest series because they fly on dragons, but there are airships as well, and there's these islands in the air, and it's about, this one airship captain, I think, is hired by a countess to find this lost noble. And that just sounds freaking cool. I've never heard this talked about. If you've read this, let me know. But it's definitely that Flintlock fantasy vibe, so I'll be reading this. It's really long. It doesn't fit the year of the short book. It's like almost 700 pages, but who knows? Again, Angela and I kind of decide together which of the Flintlock books we're gonna read. But if this sounds good to her, then we may put this higher. This was also gifted to me. Thank you so much, whoever sent this to me. I'm sorry I lost the thing. Again, when I moved them, I think all the little receipt things fell out, which sucks. But thank you so much. Next, Boosh, Arcanum Unbound. And my wonderful friend Jesse over at Bookish Mom sent this to me for Christmas. Thank you so much. This is a collection of all of the Sanderson Novellas, and I am so happy that I have the mass market paperback edition. I don't care about your fancy, like, sparse, white-covered individual novellas that you have. I don't care. And guess what? They're huge, and they're not... I like these. I like mass market paperback. I have them all in this one collection, and I can read it in my chosen format.
Plenty of ditches along the road. Maybe I'll find one to die in.
This has Secret History of Mistborn, which again, people talk too much about. So anyway, this has all of the novellas. I'm probably going to read Emperor's Soul, maybe even before I read Elantris, but as I continue my Sanderson journey, I'll be reading from this. Next is Boosh, Otherland by Tad Williams, Volume 1 of The City of Golden Shadow. This was also gifted to me by my good friend and patron, Andrew Wizardly Reads. Go check him out. So, I have never read Tad Williams, though I do own the Dragonbone Chair, and this book is 800 pages. But I think Andrew has read this like 3 times, and he hopes that I enjoy it also. And I think I will. I think this is about, like, our world, and there's, like, a mirror world that's like a fantasy world to ours, and people go into it as, like, characters, I think, and people disappear in the other land. I don't know, Andrew. Tell me have y'all read this? Is this good? And should I read this instead? Like, should I read this over Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn? Let me know. But I do want to read some Tad Williams. I've heard he's one of the best in the biz. Next, is going to be a very unpopular entry on here. Boosh, Shamans Crossing by Robin Hobb. Book 1 of the Soldier's Son trilogy. So, everyone talks about Robin Hobb, and no one talks about this book or this series. I've heard it's the least like Hobb, and that no one really likes it because it's not Realm of the Underlings. This sounds so cool, guys. It's about an aristocrat who's born to be a soldier, and he goes and attends the soldier academy or whatever, and everyone's like cruel and hates him and stuff. I don't really know why. Why do they hate him? I don't know. But then he joins the king's army of brutal expansion. Like, it's this big expansionist empire that's going into the forest and clearing out the civilization that lives there, and that civilization has magic. And, and this is definitely a quest series. This is Flintlock fantasy, and I'm so excited to read this. Y'all, I may read this before Assassin's Apprentice, which is just going to make everyone really, really mad. But this sounds so cool. It sounds so cool. This was also gifted to me. Thank you so much. Next we have Bouphe Spiderlite by Adrian Tchaikovsky, and this was also a gift. So I love Adrian Tchaikovsky. I also have almost all of his books as well. But this is a fantasy book. It's one of his shorter ones. It's a longer novella, but it's pretty short. Where a big spider joins this kind of D&D party, and the spider talks. And it's supposed to be really amusing. Y'all know that Adrian Tchaikovsky loves himself some bugs. It just seems bizarre, but it seems really freaking cool. So, Spiderlite, and thank you so much. Next we have Boosh, Prosper's Demon, and Boosh, Inside Man, both by K.J. Parker. This one was gifted to me by Angela, and this one by my wonderful friend Leslie over at The Nerdy Narrative. So these are 2 Parker novellas. These are, Inside Man is a sequel to Prosper's Demon. I know Zara has read ahead and read Prosper's Demon already, but I have not. But I hope to read them soon. And again, I love Parker. So thank you guys so much. This is not it doesn't fit a series that we've read already, but I think it takes place in the same world. Next we have Boosh, The Haunting of Tramcar 015 by P. Jelly Clark. So, I have wanted to read Clark's novellas for a while now because they just sound really cool. And also detective crap, which I love. And so this was gifted to me by my wonderful, wonderful friend and watchman and patron, Charmaine. Again, one of my favorite people on online. Thank you so much, Charmaine, for this. And I love novellas. I'll probably read this year for sure. Next, we've got Boosh, The Winter Road by Adrian Selby. This was gifted to me by Katrina. I know Angela and Zara both love this book, and so I don't know how I'm gonna feel about it. Angela said, yeah, maybe, I might not. But I like the fact that it's standalone-ish, that it's not part of a series, even if it takes place in the same world. I don't actually know what it's about. Let me look. The Empire will be born in spring, but it is forged in vicious winter. The Circle, 1,000 miles of perilous forests and warring clans. No one has ever tamed such treacherous territory before, but ex-soldier Tyr Amundsen, veteran of 100 battles, is determined to try. That sounds really cool. I know this definitely, this is one of Zara's favorite reads last year, and Angela has praised this a lot, so I'm definitely going to give it a go and see if Adrian Selby is for me. So next, I have Boosh, Academic Exercises and Father of Lies. These are two novella collections by K.J. Parker. So a lot of the novellas that Parker wrote are contained in these two novella collections, but then there's a lot of stories slash essays slash novellas that aren't anywhere else except in these. And the best way to acquire these is for $7 on Kindle. Except that for some reason, you can't get them outside the US on Kindle, which is freaking lame because no one can read Purple and Black, so it sucks. But these two books are hard to find online, but I've been scouring, like I said, for a long time, and I found some good deals to get both of these because I really wanted the hardback copies of these. So I'll definitely be reading some from these this year for sure. Next, and these are gifts from my friend and nemesis, Leanna. The Spider in hardback, which I already have in paperback, but now I have in hardback, book 2 of the Under Northern Sky. And then the hardback of Crowfall, book 3 of the Ravensmark trilogy, which begins with Blackwing. Blackwing was one of my favorite reads this last year, so I'm pumped it'll be one of the first series I finish. Ravencry and Crowfall. So thank you so much, Leanna. Next, from my wonderful friend, Sarah, over at Sarah Reads. She got me these two, what's this one called? The Scent of Tears and For Love of Distant Shores by Adrian Tchaikovsky. These are books 3 and 4 of the short stories of the Apt. It takes place in the Apt world with Apt characters, but they are short stories written by, I think in one of these collections, in this collection right here, short stories are written by other authors, not just by Tchaikovsky. John Gwynne writes one of the Apt stories, which is awesome. So you guys know I love Shadow of the Apt, so I'll definitely be reading these when I conclude the series. So thank you so much, Sarah. This next one is from another Sarah, Fairy Reads, who is a wonderful friend and patron of mine. This is The Alchemy of Mask and Mirrors by Curtis Braddock. And this is book 1 in the Risen Kingdoms. And this is definitely a quest book. The main characters are a princess and a musketeer. It is swashbuckling. It is like steampunky, that subgenre. I am so pumped to read this book as soon as I am able. This series just seems like it's going to be right in my bailiwick. And then finally, I have 2 annotated H.P. Lovecraft books. One I got myself, and the other one is from my wonderful friend, Kate, over at the Literary Apothecary. And I love Lovecraft. I know a bunch of y'all hate Lovecraft. And he was a huge douchebag, huge douchebag who was afraid of everything. Like, oh no, this person has a tan. I hate them because I'm racist. What an awful man. But what he did for the horror genre, and I don't know anybody who writes building suspense and existential dread better than Lovecraft. And Arkham Horror is my favorite board game. I just love the Lovecraftian mythos and the stuff that he started, and just the style of his stories. So these are annotated to where it's got stuff in the margin about the stories and about the time that was written in and everything. So these can add to my complete Lovecraft back there. So when I read them, if the stories are in here, because this doesn't have all the stories, I'll read from these. So thank you so much, Kate. So guys, that is it for me for today. I resisted the urge to split this in twain, and hopefully I kept this under an hour. Thank you so much to everyone who stole a book from me or actually generously gave me a book. Thank you guys so much. I love you guys so much. You're so kind and so generous and so awesome, and it means so much to me that, you know, you would spend your hard-earned money to buy me a book. Thank you so, so much. I really, really appreciate it, and this isn't fun without the community and without the wonderful friends that I've met and get to talk to. So, of these books, which one should I prioritize reading? Have you heard of any of the more obscure ones? Let me know down in the comments. As always, guys, information about my Patreon and Discord is down in the description, and I'll see you next time, guys.